Semen retention gives you access to your spiritual gifts. Now, when I'm talking about these spiritual gifts or superpowers, these are senses that are outside of the standard senses, the things that you can touch, taste, hear, see, and smell, right? Is even a little bit above your instincts and your intuition. Now, why this happens is because when you store this primal energy that is within us, the first thing that it does, it gives you heightened awareness because you are going to seek out opportunities to mate. That is stage number one. This is why you might naturally start walking with your shoulders back, head held high, your eyes will glow, your skin will start to clear up, you'll speak with more confidence, you'll speak with more poise, you'll be more aggressive, you'll become more focused towards achieving success and speaking to people. This is step one when you have an abundance of jing or physical fuel within the body. The second thing that happens is you start to develop more energy inside of the nervous system because energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It can only be transferred from one state to another. So when you get used to this journey, I would say when you're doing a minimum of, let's say, 30 days, this is when this stuff really starts to happen, when you start to develop these powers, right, of extrasensory perception. What starts to happen is that because you have more energy, you have a heightened awareness of energy as well, because it's something you start to first sense within your body, right? It might feel like a little bit of like electricity. Sometimes it could be like a tingling, especially if you're doing the deep breathing techniques and the microcosmic orbit, for example. You'll become really aware of how you feel, not just emotionally, but in your senses as well. So what the body is feeling on the inside. Now, I can't give you an exact time of whether this will happen in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, because, well, I've been doing this for almost a decade, on and off. So I've developed these senses quite a long time ago. But what I can tell you is that you start to develop an inner knowing, right? Where when you don't have this force, what you're doing is sometimes you're looking for information, right, to discover something. But when you're storing, what starts to happen is you start to get an inner knowing. Like, so I might have an idea that comes to me. This happens regularly, right? It could be about astrology, it could be about hermeticism, it could be about personal development, it could be about business, it could be about even another person, right? I develop the knowing before I get the information. And then I would start to look into the physical world for the validation to what I already know. Not I find something out in the physical. Now that still happens. I'm not saying that I know all things, right? But there becomes a switch, especially if you're focused on a particular topic, right? And it's your current obsession. Well, I get obsessed, right? You might just have hobbies, right? I get obsessed. Right, what will start to happen is I'll be thinking deeply, I might be meditating about this thing, I might be praying about it, I might be journaling about it, and an idea will pop into my head. And then I'll start researching, and then I will find a book about it, right? Something will come up, or a podcast might be sent to me. And some of the synchronicities are really, really, I would say, magnificent, right? I wouldn't say strange anymore, because I know if I focus on something for long enough, it will appear. Just today, there was a ads that I saw a while back, right, on how to get 10k followers on a faceless Instagram account. promoting new age topics, so like astrology, alchemy, things that I'm into, right? I didn't want to learn from someone that didn't really resonate with me, if that makes sense. And so I was just like, man, I really want to find this ad again, because I saw it a while ago and I said, nah, I don't really want to do it. And something said to me, why not give it a try? But I couldn't find the ad. You know, it's not that easy, right? I didn't know the guy's name. I had his Instagram, there was no link on his Instagram for it. Okay, so I literally just said, boom, I'm going to look for 5 minutes. I gave myself 5 minutes. I don't like over scrolling on Instagram, and TikTok's not really good for my mental health. So I'm just scrolling. I said, I'm going to give this 5 minutes. Within, I believe it's like 1 minute, the exact ad that I needed to see turn up. Because what starts to happen, right, is because you're so focused on a goal, and I'm going to break it down to what's actually happening, right? It's not woo-woo stuff a lot of the time, especially not in this age, is that you start to think about something, then you start to research these particular things, right? You start to look at it. And so what you're doing is you're programming the universe to send you information around this particular topic, right? And then what starts to happen is that you start to gain a sense, right, which is higher than just the mind, because you now have enough information and your focus, right, is not on the lower realms of your being, right? You're becoming more aware. You're starting to generate more original thoughts. But it's original to you because it's very rare that there are truly original thoughts, right? Everyone's heard the phrase, there's nothing new under the sun. But a lot of information has been lost to humanity, or it may have came in a old civilization. I don't know if you guys believe in that sort of stuff, but I believe there were civilizations that rose and fall before the civilization that we have today. And so there's a lot of information that's access to us in the ether, right? And so as you raise your energy, you gain access to this information so that you can bring it down to the earth. And these is what these extrasensory abilities really are. It's you using your heightened energy to tap into the field where you can communicate with God, right? It's where you turn from being a man into being a genius or a god. And every religious text talks about this. In the Bible, it says you are a god. Jesus said it. He says, does it not say in your text that you are gods? That is the goal. But the issue is that we're so focused on the pleasure of the body, right, through ejaculation, drugs, sex, and food, right, that we do not give ourselves the space to be able to hear, see, smell, and taste things from the ether. And yes, you can have extrasensory abilities that are involved with taste. You will have your own gifts. It could be your ability to speak from the ether as well, so to channel that and then to speak words, right, that you may not be conscious of. You might not plan these words, and they would call that prophecy, right? This is just your ability to tap into the higher realms, and this will make everything that you do better. Whether it's making money, whether it's maintaining your relationships, whether it's trying to find the right partner, anything that you are doing becomes better when you tap into the higher version of yourself, because anything that you create in the spiritual first cannot be destroyed in the physical, because the physical world is a shadow of the spiritual world, but we've been taught it's backwards. But when you move, it's like my shadow, right? If I move, my shadow automatically moves. It doesn't have a choice. My shadow can't go one way if I'm going another. And so tapping into your extrasensory abilities, your spiritual abilities, your godlike powers, right? If you use that to inform what you do, you will naturally just have a better life. So this is just a quick talk around your extrasensory abilities. Now, if you do want help, for example, and support and a safe space as a man to have a community whilst you're on this journey, I have got a free WhatsApp group that's there purely to give you a safe space whilst you're going on this journey. So I hope this video has helped. Hope to see you again soon. And last but not least, always remember that you are perfect by design. Peace.